Suicide, the last genocide. Only when chance, even the longest life, is so short in the face of the eternity which spreads out behind it and before it, and which we will never understand in this life but will experience someday. Whether we choose to or not, no matter how long we live, and when we look back on this life, it will all seem so short as if one day. Only one chance. There are so many things which we have not experienced, which we could experience. Only one chance to learn what real love is for the first time. And we have never learned if we are not ready to sacrifice ourselves for it, and more than that, to die for it 100 times. After we die, we can never again make that sacrifice, can never again taste the sweetness of that pain. Only one chance to find out that the philosophy, mindset, and religion of the 90s are not the only ones, and that perhaps there were better ones in the past in other places, and that it's not true that we've been taught about how what is more modern is better. Only one chance to be no longer a slave to times and fashions of the modern counterculture as well as the culture, especially when both the culture and the counterculture have failed us. Only one chance to be alive, only one chance to show courage, only one chance to change things and to change course. Only one chance to rise above the state of irresolution and passivity and doubt into which we've been placed by television and other electronic media. Only one chance to live virtuously. Only one chance to go to the mountains and to watch the evening sun filtering through the trees. Only one chance to sit on a cliff over the ocean and wonder why you're here. Only one chance to see the stars, only one chance to hear a heartbeat, only one chance to be free. True freedom comes not from taking life, but from giving it. Oh, I gotta see what's going on here. What are you doing, little thing? Sorry, I had to see who was knocking at my window there. There was a woodpecker pecking away, a red-headed woodpecker pecking away on my windowsill. I was like, what is going on? Forgive me. I'm going to start back a little bit from where I left off. Only one chance to be alive, only one chance to show courage, only one chance to change things and to change course. Only one chance to rise above the state of irresolution and passivity and doubt into which we've been placed by television and other electronic media. Only one chance to live virtuously, only one chance to go to the mountains and to watch the evening sun filtering through the trees, only one chance to sit on a cliff over the ocean and wonder why you're here. Only one chance to see the stars, only one chance to hear a heartbeat, only one chance to be free. True freedom comes not from taking life, but from giving it. Suicide is the only unforgivable crime because it is the only crime after which you cannot ask forgiveness. After that, you enter a future life in which there are no more chances, and that if you have not taken the one chance you've been given is true hell. Suicide takes the lives of 6,000 of the young generation in the US each year. I wish this was the number, but this was written in 94, and now it's 70,000 people nearly each year in the US that take their own life. This phenomenon is something unheard of in the history of the world. Why should this be? If the world is truly becoming a better place, suicide is the last genocide. Fathers and teachers, I ponder what is hell. I maintain that it is the suffering of being unable to love. Once an infinite existence, immeasurable in time and space, a spiritual creature was given on his coming to earth the power of saying, I am and I love. Once, only once, there was given him a moment of active living love, and for that was earthly life given him, and with it times and seasons, and that happy creature rejected the priceless gift, prized it and loved it not, scorned it and remained callous. Such a one, having left the earth, sees Abraham's bosom and talks with Abraham, as we are told in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, and beholds heaven and can go up to the Lord, but that this is just his torment. To rise up to the Lord without ever having loved, to be brought close to those who have loved when he was despised, when he has despised their love. For he sees clearly and says to himself, now I have understanding, and though I now thirst to love, there will be nothing great, no sacrifice in my love. For my earthly life is over, and Abraham will not come even with a drop of living water. That is the gift of earthly active life, to cool the fiery thirst of the spiritual love which burns in me now, though I despise it on earth. There is no more life for me, and there will be no more time. Even though I would gladly give my life for others, it can never be, for that life is past which can be sacrificed for love, and now there is a gulf fixed between that life and this existence. They talk of hellfire in the material sense. I don't want to go into the mystery and shun it. But I think if there were a fire in material sense, they would be glad for it. For I imagine that in material agony, their still greater spiritual agony would be forgotten for a moment. Moreover, that spiritual agony cannot be taken from them, for that suffering is not external but within them. And if it could be taken from them, I think it would be bitterer still for the unhappy creatures. For even if the righteous in paradise forgave them, beholding their torments and calling them up to heaven in their infinite love, they would only multiply their torments, for they would arouse in them still more keenly a flaming thirst for responsive, active, and grateful love, which is now impossible. In the timidity of my heart, I imagine, however, that the very recognition of this impossibility would serve at last to console them. For accepting the love of the righteous together with the impossibility of repaying it, by this submissiveness, the effect of this humility they will attain at last, as it were to a certain semblance of that active love which they scorn in life, to something like its outward expression. I am sorry, friends and brothers, that cannot express this clearly. But woe to those who have slain themselves on the earth. Woe to the suicides. I believe that there can be none more miserable than they. They tell us that it is a sin to pray for them, and outwardly in the church, as it were, renounces them. But in my secret heart, I believe that we may pray even for them. Love can never be an offense to Christ. For such as those I have prayed inwardly all my life, I confess it, fathers and teachers, and even now I pray for them every day. Oh, there are some who remain proud and fierce even in hell, in spite of their certain knowledge and contemplation of the absolute truth. There are some fearful ones who have given themselves over to Satan and his proud spirit entirely. For such, hell is voluntary and ever consuming. They are tortured by their own choice, for they have cursed themselves, cursing God and life. They live upon their vindictive pride like a starving man in the desert, sucking blood out of his own body. But they are never satisfied, and they refuse forgiveness. They curse God who calls them. They cannot behold the living God without hatred, and they cry out that the God of life should be annihilated, and that God should destroy himself in his own creation, and they will burn in the fire of their own wrath forever, and yearn for death and annihilation, but they will not attain to death. Fyodor Dostoevsky. I believe that those who have taken their own life can be forgiven by God. God has mercy on the brokenhearted. We should pray for our brothers and sisters who have given up. This life is hard, especially these times that we're in now are even harder. There's so much temptation and so much evil surrounding us, trying to drag us in. Every day seems like a spiritual is spiritual warfare. It doesn't just seem like it is. Everything around us, it seems, is trying to deceive us and to drag us into hell. A man meek and humble in soul, who wishes to serve God and to remain faithful to Him, will retain his meekness and humility even in the midst of persecution. His simplicity will neither betray God nor require him to disfigure and contort his soul with slavish man pleasing or servile submission to evil. A typical modern man, on the other hand, with his complexes and neuroses, his desire not to offend the enemies of God, his fear of being considered intolerant, his compulsive need for self affirmation, such a man will be far more inclined to enter into compromise with falsehood, if mind in mind, if not in heart. In this regard to the former man, that the Savior in the Sermon of the Mount said, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." Such a vessel is capable of confessing God, no matter how hopeless the harvest may seem. In fact, such a soul, being single or simple, that is, uncompounded with unrighteousness, cannot do otherwise, having long since to resolve to serve God rather than the world. Monk Gerasim. Read about my blessed friend, Saint Xenia. Blessed Saint Xenia, please pray for me. And please pray for Daniel. Xenia lived in Russia in the 1700s and lived a comfortable life. She was married to an imperial colonel whose name was Andrei, and apparently they were well off. She was still young and in good health when he died suddenly one night at a drinking party. The unexpected death of her beloved husband completely shattered her whole world. She was 26 years old and childless. This distraught widow looked around herself at all her possessions in her pointless little world and suddenly began to realize the vanity and transitoriness of all earthly joys and treasures. She came to realize that there is true value only in heavenly treasures. To the utter amazement of her friends and relatives, Xenia began to give away all that she possessed. Her money and personal belongings she gave to the poor, and she gave away her house to a friend. Finally, her relatives decided that she had taken complete leave of her senses and considered her mentally imbalanced. Having realized that there can be no true happiness on earth and that worldly possessions are only a hindrance to the attaining of true joy in God, she suddenly vanished for 8 years. It was not at this time that Xenia was called to the highest feat of spiritual perfection, that of foolishness for Christ's sake. This is a state of appearing to this world as totally crazy, when in fact the sanity of the person is just beyond this world. There is, in the fool, a total understanding of life and death, good and evil, love and hate. There is complete reconciliation with God, while the world says it's madness. Xenia returned to her hometown dressed in her dead husband's old uniforms, and thereafter would only respond to her late husband's name. Until her death, people called her Andre. It was as if she had hoped in some way to take upon herself the burden of the terrible state of his drunken soul at his death. Sorrowing for his sins and for her own, she began to wander the streets of the poorest area of the city. Wherever she went, people would persecute her and laugh at her, on some occasions throw mud and rocks at her. With complete meekness, however, she kept before her the image of God who suffered without a murmur, heard all accusations, bore all persecutions, and suffered terrible torture and crucifixion. Because of God's example, she bore all hardships with silence, saying, "God, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Those who felt sorry for her gave her some spare change or some clothes, but she, in her selfless love for mankind, would turn around and give all the gifts away, leaving nothing for herself. Through prayer and suffering, Xenia was reconciled with God. Thus, God was in her and she was in God. For her uncompromising love, she was revealed as a visionary and had the gift of seeing the future. Sometimes she would hint at the approaching illness or death of someone in order that they might repair themselves for their fate. On one occasion, Xenia was seen to be weeping both day and night. When someone asked her why she was weeping, she only replied, "There is blood, there is blood, there is a river of blood there." And she began to weep all the more. In the days following, there was a bloody murder, and her tears bore witness of it before it happened. For a long time, no one knew where Xenia spent her nights. One night, the local police followed her and discovered that the elderly woman spent her nights in an open field, praying in all seasons and in all kinds of weather. Xenia truly bore that faith in which all things are possible. While still living in her body, her soul always soared above this world, dwelling in a living, direct communion with God. Thus we could say that the foolishness of God is wiser than men. My hour is struck, I shall go. Forgetting father and mother, I shall rinse my shirt white. In the waters of foolishness for Christ, I'll venture out into the back roads and dark alleys of my seduced land. I shall go into a worn out robe and put my hat right down to my brows. My feet will be in their thick briars, my face and hands in sweat and dirt. Each passer-by will shun me as if afraid to catch my disease, and I shall be chased out from everywhere, and everywhere I will be like a scarecrow. And to deluded human beings in foolishness will venture to say something to them, but unlistening people especially will dismiss me, preserving external calmness. And somehow matter-of-factly will stone me, but getting up I will continue my interrupted path along towns and cities. And with my human scorn from all sides, they will pressure me so as I will not be able to breathe. But at night, when the blizzard blows, hiding in the dry grasses, I will be tired in the fields and groves, seeking where I could rest my head. And I will be like a madman, trembling, sticking my fingers to warm them in my mouth, and that which people have not crucified, December frost will finish the job. And when my soul will depart from the body, this boredom will disappear forever, and I shall go to Christ in a white shirt, which I so diligently rinsed. Father Roman. So I have to go and read an akathist for someone who's fighting cancer. So forgive me, brothers and sisters. I'll be back a little bit later. God bless you. I love you all so much. And God loves you more than I can ever express. Please pray for me. You're all in my prayers. I love you all. And I'll see you again soon. God bless.